Well, the last time we saw Serena, she was sitting on the side of the road. Very, very hot. We got her home. It took 24 hours to get her home. And the problem was the fans. They're old, they were drawing too much current, and they'd burned out one of the relays. So we fixed the relay, but the problem wasn't solved. We still had a problem with overheating. The water hoses had all been softened by the heat, and one by one they kept bursting. I finally thought I had it all sorted, took it for a drive, got about 10k away from home, and another one that I didn't even know existed burst. This time when I fixed it, it ran beautifully for about 15 minutes. But then suddenly it started blowing a lot of white smoke, and I knew that my worst fears had happened. I'd done the head gasket. That was when I decided enough was enough and it was time to walk away. So for the next few months she just sat there, while I pulled out all the camping gear ready to put it into a new vehicle.
Johnny, leave her, oh leave her, Johnny, leave her, for the journey's done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave.
I really didn't find anything that I liked as much as Serena, and so I thought, well, why not give it a go and see if I can do something with it. First thing I noticed when I got the lid off was that, oh boy, I shouldn't have left it so long with all that water in the motor. The rust on the camshafts looks pretty bad. I'm going to have to do a lot of polishing there. The sight that was waiting when I took the head off was not a pretty one. The cylinders were full of water and the cylinder walls were really quite rusty. As expected, the head gasket was a bit of a disaster, but that's not a problem because that's what we're here to replace. So that's about where I'm at for now, and I've got to wait till the head gasket arrives and then we'll put it all back together and see how she goes. Well, as you can probably see from the length of my hair, I didn't get the motor done before we went into lockdown with all this COVID-19 business. So we've been locked down here for about 3 months now, hardly leaving the farm, and I probably could have got it done before we started, except that I hadn't realised that this not being the original motor, I was going to run into problems, and the problem that I ran into was that the head gasket was different. This head gasket has an extra oil hole, and the normal one that you get for the motor in this car just doesn't have that, so I had to do a lot of searching before I actually found the right one. By the time I found one, we were well and truly in the grip of the great toilet paper panic of COVID-19, with postal disruptions and me with a severely restricted budget. It eventually arrived, but by that time winter was approaching, and working outside on Serena was not as much fun. Well, we're coming into winter now, so it's getting hard to find days when I can actually get much done. But today's rather beautiful. We're up around 11 degrees and a little bit of a wind, but the sun's shining brightly, so today's the day to really get stuck into it. I began tightening the head with an Allen key to take up the slack, and then tensioned them with the torque wrench. The screwdriver handle was stopping the timing chain from falling down into the motor. Next, the valve guides were put in place and the camshafts were fitted, making sure all of my marks were lined up correctly. Well, it's another beautiful day up here today. This being a farm, there's a million jobs I should be doing, but oh, what the hell. A day like today I'm going to work on the old Serena here and try and finish the motor. There's most of what's left to do is just a reverse of putting stuff back together, but still going to take quite a while, so we'll see how it goes. Keep saying that. Right, the outside head bolts, they got to go on next. So let's have a look. Well, this back one here is just stripping out, and when you look at it, looks like it's had some sort of helicoil on it before. So this is not the first time this motor's been pulled apart. Unfortunately, I think the people I bought the motor from weren't particularly straight with me. It's a lot older and it's done a lot more work than they said it had. When I take a break, I like to sit here and look down the valley. It's a marvellous area for birds here and for flies. The different species of birds come through here. They seem to like this valley. This was the favourite spot for my old dog to sit. And so this is where we've buried her, in beside the seat here. She used to sit here and look down the valley as if she was on guard. Unfortunately she died. She had cancer in the last, but she was pretty good right up to the end. But when she died, it was within a week of when Serena broke down. So it was a pretty bad time all round. Right, now we put in the chain tensioner. The arrow on it has to face forwards, the hook, so that slips in like that. This is the theory, of course, but nothing I've ever tried on this car has been straightforward, so I'm not really expecting it just to slip in. Well, it's amazing how often you can read the manual and really not understand what they say. This was talking about the hook that gets disconnected when you push it in. There it is, there on the side. You have to hold that back and close this to get it in and hook it onto that hook piece. Before I put the rocker cover back on, I have to clean all the old liquid gasket off of the rubber seal. This could take a while. Well, it's finally starting to look like a motor again. Well, it looks like I'm knocking off for the day. I was just about to do a bit more and one of the young rams. Well, I'll tell you the story. We've got 3 goats here, and one of them at least is coming into season, so she's yelling a bit. One of the young rams heard the noise and thought, here's a good chance, and so he jumped the fence on his paddock, broke through the electric fence where the goats are, and then joined in with the girls. But unfortunately for him, the girls weren't having any. The goats are a lot smarter than sheep, you see. They knew exactly what he was up to, and they chased him all around the place, and he was getting a little bit upset. He was on one side of the electric fence, which he suddenly realised was electric, and he didn't want to go through it again. His mother was on the other side of the other fence, so there were 2 fences between him and his mother, and they were yelling at each other. In the end, he decided to break out, so he charged the electric fence, knocked it over, because it's a net. And then of course the goats got out as well, and we have to keep them pretty well confined because, like I say, goats are smart. They can get out of this place and onto the road, and the way they do it is they go down near the creek where there are a couple of big trees. They climb out along the branch and they jump down. Now, I never knew goats could climb trees until I started keeping them, but they certainly can. They go up like a monkey. Anyway, I've only just finished sorting out all the fencing. The young ram's back in with his mother. The goats are back in their paddock, and it's all quiet again now, but the sun's going down, so I've probably got half an hour before the shop's shut. I'm going to go and try and buy this piece of hose that I need to replace the one that I cut too short. And we'll hope the weather holds till tomorrow and try and get a little bit more done then. It's a long saga. We'll just keep plugging away. Well, I think I've checked everything I can check, and I've done everything I can do. The only thing I haven't done is put that bracket underneath, because that's really hard, and if things don't work out I might have to pull it all apart again, mightn't I? So now for the moment of truth. We won't push it yet. We'll go back and do a lot more checks before we go any further, but she starts and runs. Fantastic. I had to turn it off fairly quickly because I hadn't tightened one of the fuel lines. I must be going senile. I could also see a small drip of water, and when I pushed it, it turned out to be another hose that was gone. So before I drive this, I'm going to have to replace all the hoses. It's got so hot, it's denatured the rubber, and they're all failing one by one. So there's no point trying to drive this anywhere until every hose has been replaced. Still haven't solved the heat problem or the fan problem. That's all for the future, but the motor's going again, and that's a big step.